Councilmember Von Rudenberg.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Canestrino.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sims.
Here.
Councilmember Battaglia.
Here.
Mayor LaBrosse is absent.
All right, would everyone please rise for the flag salute?
I gotta do the Open Public Meeting Act first.
Okay, sorry.
This is backwards. It's different than the cow.
Okay.
Okay.
Good, Stacy.
This meeting is
You're the
being
boss.
this meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10:4-6 et sec. Notice of which was sent to the record in the Star Ledger and was posted on the municipal bulletin board.
Now please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first we have one proclamation. Deb, is anyone here for this? Or?
Not that I know of. I know we have to send it.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to read. This is a proclamation from the office of the mayor of the city of Hackensack. Whereas all children in the city of Hackensack should have access to the highest quality education possible, and whereas the city of Hackensack recognizes the important role that an effective education plays in preparing all students in the city of Hackensack to be successful adults, and whereas quality education is critically important to the economic vitality of the city of Hackensack, and whereas the city of Hackensack is home to a multitude of high-quality public and non-public schools from which parents can choose for their children, in addition to families who educate their children in their home. And whereas educational variety not only helps to diversify our economy, but also enhances the vibrancy of our community. And whereas the city of Hackensack has many high-quality teaching professionals in all types of school settings who are committed to educating our children. And whereas School Choice Week is celebrated across the county by millions of students, parents, educators, schools, and organizations to raise awareness of the need for effective educational options. Now, therefore, I, Deputy Mayor Kathleen Canestrino of the City of Hackensack, along with the Mayor and the members of the Hackensack City Council, do hereby recognize January 26th through February 1st, 2020 as School Choice Week in the City of Hackensack, and call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens. All right, we have no minutes to approve. City Manager's report, Ted, please.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council and invited guests. This is the City Manager's report for January 28, 2020. First, a reminder, tomorrow, January 29th, is the last day for Christmas tree pickups. 2, the Recycling Coach app, which was discussed last council meeting, appears to have some valid points. We're still researching and making sure that the update will be there. I have to give Regina DePasqua her due for bringing it to our attention, and I will update the mayor and council when I have all the bugs worked out on this program, but it appears to be a valid option for residents. The FAA, I'm gonna tip my hand to the deputy mayor and let her update.
Okay, I'll give a brief update as I gave at the at the Committee of the Whole. The FAA quarterly meeting was this past Wednesday. I attended as representative of the city, and we had some residents of the city attend as well. What we're really focused on is following the new proposed flight path that will take aircraft approaching on runway 19 into Cedarville Airport, away from Prospect Avenue and the high-rises there, the hospital, Hiller School, and it will move that flight path a little bit west to be flying over Route 17. All right, most of the work has now been completed. They're still asking for positive comments about this new flight path. If you would like to enter those comments, if you go to the city's website, which is hackensack.org, there is a link right there that you can click on and a button that will say submit your comment. This is something that the city has been working on for many, many, many years, and we're finally seeing it come to fruition, so this is a great thing. They are on track still for the final approval of this to be the end of March of this year, at which point pilots will be able to use and utilize that option and have the city see less noise and also improve safety conditions throughout the city. Part of that meeting, as I always attend, I look at noise complaints. I always tell folks in the city to, if you see something, please say something. We had a good response this year. We actually had 483 noise complaints filed by 349 different residents, which is a great improvement over what we've seen in the past years. It's kind of my little joke. We're always in competition with Rutherford because they always want to surpass us and have the most. And last quarter, we actually were ahead of them, but they caught up. So our 483, they had 504, but we still had a great showing and a wonderful improvement. We are still seeing a significant amount of noise. I look at the charts for noise, and I look at things between 78 and 82 decibels, which is a considerable amount of noise. And what we saw over this past year, if you average it out, is about 73 events of those a day. So we are certainly seeing more noisy events than any of the surrounding communities, and that's why this new flight path is critical to us. There's still concerns, I know, that I've heard from many of the residents, and I've seen myself, and I have a couple of pictures where some of the aircraft is actually flying not over buildings, but next to them, adjacent to them. The airport claims this isn't true, that they're always over the apartment buildings or over school buildings, hospital buildings, etc. So I'm asking anyone, if you see something, we all have phones today, it's great, you could snap a picture quickly. If you see any of the aircraft flying not over but adjacent or next to any of the buildings, take a quick picture, jot down the date and time, because that's important for traceability, and send it into the city. We have to continue, again, to raise awareness. This is something that affects all of our quality of lives and, of course, brings safety concerns as well. For all of you that have been logging these complaints, keep doing it, and we greatly appreciate your effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Next is the building department update. 56 notices were written, 44 inspections were made, 3 summonses were issued, 8 CCOs were performed, 13 Oprah requests were fulfilled. PSE&G has launched an app for all of its customers. Please check PSE&G's website for details. Number 6 is a open swim has been canceled for tomorrow, Wednesday, January 29th. It will resume again on Wednesday, February 5th. I'd be allowed to tell you I know the reason why it was canceled. I don't know, but we just want to alert the people that the open swim has been canceled for tomorrow. And that would complete the city manager's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Okay, so Deb, I guess we're moving on to Resolution 33-20.
Yes, this is a final adoption of ordinance number 1-2020, an ordinance to amend Chapter 170 of the Code of the City of Hackensack, Vehicles and Traffic, to extend resident permit parking on Thompson Street. This ordinance has been advertised pursuant to law and now calls for a public hearing.
Can I have a motion to open to the public?
Offer.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, anyone who wishes to speak on this ordinance and this ordinance only, please come forward, give your name and address to the clerk, and you have unlimited time, so.
All time. Okay, you can speak.
You have to say it publicly, I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, just yeah, I'm sorry, well, so she records it, that's all I meant, I'm sorry.
But,
Say it publicly.
the Art of War talks about giving, directions clearly. So I heard your directions clearly.
You did,
So I
you
went to the
followed it
clerk.
clearly, I'm sorry, I'll
And
try
if the,
I'll try and be
and if the
more clear.
direction is not given clearly, then the supervisor, the general, should be relieved of her duty.
No,
because-
I don't feel that that's
Okay, well, that's the art of war. Okay, so needless to say, I'm not really familiar. I'm trying to get involved all over Bergen County to understand some of these things. I'm concerned about these permits. Is there a cost attributed to them?
Say that again, sir?
Is there a cost attributed to a resident parking permit? They have to
It is my understanding, Attorney, I'll refer to you if I'm not correct, but I believe this was in effect, they already had resident parking, and it was only overnight. They're now extending it during the day, that there'd be a 2-hour limit there during the day as well. Is that true, Steve?
Well, yeah, I mean, this ordinance was dealing with Thompson Street specifically.
Only.
And the resident-only sticker for Thompson Street was only for, a portion of Thompson Street, and the request was to extend it to all of Thompson Street. So yes, I mean, you are going to require to get a resident-only parking sticker. I think there's a fairly minimal cost, and
So on top of the exorbitant taxes?
yeah,
$5.
it's like $5,
$5,
something like that. And that's essentially the cost of producing the permit. And in return, you have street parking that's not being taken up by a bunch of people who don't live in the neighborhood. So it's not a money maker. It's essentially to cover the cost of the permit because people on that street felt they needed to, have some protection from people who don't live in that part of the community from taking up all the parking spaces because their homes don't have sufficient parking because of the nature of the complex that's there. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, I understand that, but on behalf of the taxpayers, I think the $5 is even exorbitant. I believe that people pay enough taxes here in Bergen County, and these are some of the things that government could give back. I mean, think of it. You pay taxes for your home. You take for granted that you should have, ample parking on the street if you have guests or people coming. And to, try to exploit another $5 from the taxpayer is a little bit excessive.
That
You know,
has always been the city policy, but we thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this ordinance and this ordinance only? Seeing none, may I have a motion to close to the public? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. May I now have a motion to approve this ordinance?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None.
Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Hackensack County of Bergen and State of New Jersey that ordinance number 1-2020 has passed its second and final reading and is hereby adopted.
All right, so resolution 34-20.
This is a resolution for final adoption of ordinance number 2-2020, final adoption of an ordinance to authorize the grant of an easement to Public Service Electric and Gas Company over city property located at Block 303, Lot 5 on the tax map of the City of Hackensack. This ordinance has been advertised pursuant to law and now calls for a public hearing.
If anyone would like to speak on this ordinance
Need
and
a
this...
motion first.
Oh, motion. May I have a motion to open to the public? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, if anyone would like to speak on this ordinance and this ordinance only, please come forward and give your name and address at the dais. Seeing none, can I have a motion to close to the public? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, may I now have a motion to adopt this ordinance?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None.
Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Hackensack County of Bergen and State of New Jersey that ordinance number 2-2020 has passed its second and final reading and is hereby adopted.
We have resolution 35-20.
This is a resolution for final adoption of ordinance number 3-2020, an ordinance to amend Chapter 170 of the Code of the City of Hackensack, Vehicles and Traffic, to add a new loading zone on John Street in Section 170-60, Schedule 11 loading zones. This ordinance has been advertised pursuant to law and now calls for a public hearing.
Can I have a motion to open to the public? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none. If anyone would like to speak on this ordinance and this ordinance only, please come forward and give your name and address. Seeing none, may I have a motion to close to the public?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. May I now have a motion to approve this ordinance?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None.
Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Hackensack County of Bergen and State of New Jersey that ordinance number 3-2020 has passed its second and final reading and is hereby adopted.
Okay, resolution 36-20.
This is a resolution for final adoption of ordinance number 4-2020, an ordinance to amend Chapter 170 of the Code of the City of Hackensack, Vehicles and Traffic, to prohibit the parking of vehicles on sidewalks in Section 170-6, General Parking Regulations. This ordinance has been advertised pursuant to law and now calls for a public hearing.
May I have a motion to open to the public?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Anyone who wishes to speak on this ordinance and this ordinance only, please come forward and give your name and address. Seeing none, may I have a motion to close to the public?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, may I now have a motion to adopt this ordinance?
Offer.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None.
Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Hackensack County of Bergen and State of New Jersey that ordinance number 4-2020 has passed its second and final reading and is hereby adopted.
Resolution 37-20.
This is a resolution for the introduction of ordinance number 5-2020, an ordinance to amend Chapter 170 of the Code of the City of Hackensack, Vehicles and Traffic, to remove a handicapped parking space from Section 49.2, Parking for the Handicapped, at 193 Burdan Place.
May I have a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None.
Be it resolved that the above ordinance being ordinance 5-2020 as introduced is now passed on first reading, and that said ordinance shall be considered for final passage at a meeting to be held on February 11th, 2020 at 8:00 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter can be reached at the regular meeting place of the City Council, and at such time and place all persons interested be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance, and that the city clerk be and she is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance according to law with a notice of its introduction and passage on first reading, and of the time and place when and where said ordinance will be further considered for final passage.
Resolution 38-20.
This is a resolution for the introduction of ordinance number 6-2020, an ordinance to amend Chapter 26 of the Code of the City of Hackensack, Land Use Procedures, to adjust certain zoning and miscellaneous fees in Section 26 through 28 fees.
May I have a motion to adopt?
Offer.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None?
Be it resolved that the above ordinance being ordinance 6-2020 as introduced is now passed on first reading, and that said ordinance shall be considered for final passage at a meeting to be held on February 11th, 2020 at 8:00 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter can be reached at the regular meeting place of the City Council, and at such time and place all persons interested be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance, and that the city clerk be and she is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance according to law with a notice of its introduction and passage on first reading, and of the time and place when and where said ordinance will be further considered for final passage.
Resolution 39-20.
This is a resolution for the introduction of ordinance number 7-2020, an ordinance amending Chapter 111 of the Code of the City of Hackensack entitled Massage Establishments.
May I have a motion to adopt?
It's the intro.
Intro, I'm sorry.
You are in the hand.
Offer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the above ordinance being ordinance 7-2020 as introduced is now passed on first reading, and that said ordinance shall be considered for final passage at a meeting to be held on February 11th, 2020 at 8:00 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter can be reached at the regular meeting place of the City Council, and at such time and place all persons interested be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance, and that the city clerk be and she is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance according to law with a notice of its introduction and passage on first reading, and of the time and place when and where said ordinance will be further considered for final passage.
Resolution 40-20.
This is a resolution for the introduction of ordinance number 8-2020, an ordinance to amend Chapter 170 of the Code of the City of Hackensack Parking to update pricing for the use of certain on-street parking meters on Warren Street.
May I have a motion to introduce?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none?
Be it resolved that the above ordinance being ordinance 8-2020 as introduced is now passed on first reading, and that said ordinance shall be considered for final passage at a meeting to be held on February 11th, 2020 at 8:00 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter can be reached at the regular meeting place of the City Council, and at such time and place all persons interested be given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance, and that the city clerk be and she is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance according to law with a notice of its introduction and passage on first reading, and of the time and place when and where said ordinance will be further considered for final passage.
Resolution 41-20.
This is a resolution authorizing tax refunds for duplicate payments and state board judgments.
May I have a motion to approve?
Offer. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None?
Okay. Resolution 42
Resolution 42-20.
is a resolution authorizing transfer of the 2019 budget appropriations.
May I have a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none. Resolution 43-20.
This is a resolution awarding change order number 1 to Suburban Consulting Engineering for licensed site remediation professional services, otherwise known as LSRP, for the gasoline discharge at the Department of Public Works garage.
May I have a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none. Resolution 44-20.
This is a resolution authorizing award of change order number 1 and number 2 to Suburban Consulting Engineering for engineering services for the Main Street streetscape improvements.
May I have a motion to approve?
Offer. Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none. Resolution 45-20.
This is a resolution of the City of Hackensack and the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, determining the form and other details of its note relating to the Transportation Bank Short-Term Loan Program of the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank to be issued in the principal amount of up to $3,921,780 and providing for that issuance and sale of such note to the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank and authorizing the execution and delivery of such note by the City of Hackensack in favor of the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank, all pursuant to the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank's Transportation Bank Short-Term Loan Program. And no, I won't read it again.
Say that 5 times fast.
May I have a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none. Resolution 46-20.
This is a resolution authorizing the payment of bills.
May I have a motion to approve?
Offer. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none. Before we look at the consent agenda, does anyone on the council have an issue with any of them and need anything to be removed? Okay, Deb, it's all up to you.
Okay, the following items are considered to be routine in nature and will be enacted in one motion. Any items require expenditure or supported by a certification of availability of funds. Any item requiring discussions will be removed from the consent agenda. And consent agenda items will be reflected in full in the minutes, including any exceptions and/or deletions. The consent agenda consists of Resolution 47-20 through 59-20, and they read as follows. Resolution 47-20 is a resolution authorizing the award of bid for Carver Park Tennis Courts renovation project to Halicon Inc. of Bridgewater, New Jersey. Resolution 48-20 is a resolution authorizing the awarding of a co-op contract for the purchase of a 2020 roll-off truck cab and chassis for $138,803 from Hudson County Motors, Inc. Resolution 49-20 is a resolution authorizing the awarding of a co-op contract for the purchase of a 2020 roll-off truck body for $42,764.18 from Powfinger American Roll-Off of Trenton, New Jersey. Resolution 50-20 is a resolution authorizing award of contract for licensed site remediation professional services, LSRP, to Suburban Consulting Engineering for historic fill associated with Field Number 7 in Fashini Park. Resolution 51-20 is a resolution authorizing award of contract for engineering services to Suburban Consulting Engineering for C2 licensed wastewater operator. Resolution 52-20 is a resolution authorizing award of contract for engineering services to Suburban Consulting Engineering for combined sewer overflow management. Resolution 53-20 is a resolution concurring with the Planning Board's redevelopment investigation regarding Block 403, lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, 12, 13, 15, and 16, otherwise known as 400 Main Street, and designating it as an area in need of redevelopment for condemnation purposes. Resolution 54-20 is a resolution authorizing raffle license for Spectrum for Living and Holy Trinity Catholic Church. Resolution 55-20 is a resolution authorizing the fire department mutual aid agreement with the Borough of Oradell. Resolution 56-20 is a resolution authorizing appointment of special officers Class 1 for 2020 calendar year. Resolution 57-20 is a resolution authorizing the City of Hackensack and the County of Bergen through the City of Hackensack Police Department to participate in Defense Logistics Agency Law Enforcement Support Office, the 1033 program to enable the City of Hackensack Police Department to request and acquire excess Department of Defense equipment. Resolution 58-20 is a resolution authorizing the removal of 89 State Street, also known as Block 214, Lot 21, from the city's abandoned property list to facilitate the transfer and rehabilitation of the property. And Resolution 59-20 is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hackensack authorizing the settlement of litigation entitled DeFreeze versus City of Hackensack et al., Superior Court of New Jersey, docket number BERL 6298-17. And with that, we need a motion.
May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
Offer.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None?
That's it.
So may I have a motion to open to the public
I want to say something.
before we open? Okay, before we open to the public, Deputy Mayor Sims would like to make a comment.
Good evening. Before we open this up to the public, I want to address something. Last week, I received a phone call about an ad on NorthJersey.com that showed me. I have no knowledge of how it got there or who took it out. The ad states that I was some kind of civil rights leader, and I have never said that, nor do I proclaim to be one. Today, I was told there was another ad out on a Board of Ed member that did not take it out either. People say it's just politics, but I say it's just wrong, and this is just my opinion. With that being said, remember, there is no I in team, and I love each and every one of you here to comment tonight, because tomorrow is not promised. Thank you.
Okay, Dave, thanks for your comment. Now may I have a motion to open to the public?
Offer. Offer.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none? Anyone that wishes to address us, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
Okay, you can put it up there.
All right, Rick Wilby, Inglewood, New Jersey. Yeah, the last time I was here, I asked you about your COA obligations, if those have been met. There was a lot of development, a lot of building going on in the 37th Legislative District. It's led to gentrification, pushing out of black and brown residents. And I want to know what exactly is the numbers of affordable, low-income, subsidized housing that the city of Hackensack has. What is your plan to increase that number? And why is it that you're giving wealthy developers pilot programs at taxpayers' expense to create a greater burden? I need some answers to those questions. And I also want to thank the deputy mayor for clarifying that situation about not being a civil rights leader. We just celebrated the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King, and I believe that if somebody is misrepresenting the deputy mayor in the climate that we live in now with the height of racism and hate crimes, then maybe the city of Hackensack should assist him to investigate who is exactly posting these things or putting up this misinformation. Okay? Nobody's here to attack or rip anybody down. There's enough of that goes on in this country. We're simply trying to understand how is it that a country that was built by slaves is now pushing them out, okay, in mass droves back down south because of the self-interest of politicians that represented to us that they were our friends, both in the Democrat and the Republican Party. So I need to understand exactly if you've met your COA obligation. I need to understand exactly what the set-asides are for minorities. I need to understand exactly what the remedy is for the continued gentrification and the giveaway of valuable land here in Bergen County.
Do you want me to speak at all?
First comment with reference to Deputy Mayor Sims. I know that Deputy Mayor Sims is trying to gather the information and has contacted the news sites that are posting this incorrectly.
Well, the police should be assisting them.
There's no back and forth, I will speak. And in addition, our city attorney has also been investigating that, and Steve, I'll let you speak to that in a minute. As far as COA, our full COA obligation, I believe that we are right now meeting our COA requirement at this particular time, and we are always encouraging affordable housing as well as average housing, average priced housing, as well as affordable housing for all of our residents and folks that wish to move into the city. Currently, we're looking at, we're dealing with a couple of different organizations. I know you've spoken about this before, and my answer is pretty much the same answer that I've given you before, which is we are currently negotiating with 2 different organizations as well as the county to have some affordable housing built in the city. It is a long, lengthy process because of the fact that it involves specific types of developers and obtaining specific types of tax credits, but we have always been moving in that direction and we will continue to do so. No one is giving tax breaks to wealthy developers. We have a financial analyst that aids us in all of these decisions, and these decisions are made with the best interest of all of our residents. The money that comes in from these properties benefits all of our residents. We had a 0 tax increase last year in the city, and we propose to have one for the next 4 years, and that benefits everyone, whether you own property in Hackensack or whether you rent, because it helps your rent if their taxes don't go up. So the initiatives that we have undertaken, I believe, are obvious and seen to those that can appreciate them. Steve, if you have any comment on either of those topics?
Sure. Well, first of all, we are investigating these advertisements. We've been reaching out to northjersey.com, where they've been advertised, and also where they've been appearing on the Hackensack Daily Voice. My understanding is northjersey.com is stating that they're being published through some third-party internet source, that it's not direct payment to northjersey.com. So we're continuing to investigate the source of these ads and why they're being posted. The city's particularly concerned because these advertisements use the Hackensack Police Department logo, the city logo, and the school board's logo, and my understanding is actually linked to the city website, so the city does have an interest in finding out why these ads are being posted, who's doing it, and who's essentially using the city's intellectual property in this manner. But it is challenging to really find the source of it, so we're continuing to investigate. But certainly, it's of a concern that someone's trying to misrepresent that something is coming from the deputy mayor, which is the impression it's clearly trying to give when it is not doing so. And I think the deputy mayor's made that clear tonight. And if we have further information, we'll let the public know if and when we're able to figure that out. It is a very weird situation. With respect to affordable housing, we are, currently working with the affordable housing groups in the state to come up with how we're going to handle affordable housing obligations going forward, in terms of credits and the more specific questions you've asked. Those are extraordinarily complicated issues. We actually have an affordable housing planner and affordable housing council that are helping us guide our way through those to make sure that we are in compliance. But the fact is that Hackensack does still have, certainly compared to the rest of Bergen County, far more substantial affordable housing opportunities than other communities in the area. The leading advocacy group, the Fair Share Housing Center, has recognized that. But in terms of, credits and various rounds and exactly where that is, we're still trying to address those issues and are continuing to do so. But it's been a pretty cooperative process because, again, those organizations recognize that, Hackensack welcomes affordable housing development. If an affordable developer wants to come into Hackensack and build a project, they should come to this city council, and the city council will certainly, welcome that sort of project and work to be helpful in any way that it can. And as the deputy mayor said, we are working with the Bergen County Housing Authority, the Hackensack Housing Authority, to expand those opportunities wherever possible. But on the other hand, developers who are coming into town, they are looking to, invest in this town. And, Hackensack is not yet Jersey City. It is not yet Hoboken. There is still, that balance that needs to be struck with, encouraging development, not putting it in a place where it won't be successful, with the need to provide additional affordable housing opportunities. And we are working very hard on those issues and trying to, strike that appropriate balance. But as I said before, if there's a developer who wants to come into town, you go to some of these suburban towns that surround Hackensack, they'll do everything in their power to try and avoid that sort of development. And here in Hackensack, I think it would be welcomed.
It definitely would be, and that's why we have been meeting with different organizations with proposed projects on different various locations. And and one additional thing I forgot to mention is those developers that are coming to town and building market rate apartments, if they are not building affordable housing as part of that component, they have a COA financial obligation. So they must contribute funds to the city that we are putting in an affordable housing trust fund. So then when we do work with these organizations that are coming in to want to build affordable housing, the city is partners with them. So we will be receiving money as these apartments come on board, and we put this money into this trust fund so that we can use it for a variety of things. One thing we can do is to become partners and help them be able to afford to build the affordable housing. And other things we may be looking at in the future is doing some renovations on our existing affordable housing. So even if they're not building it, they do have an obligation to contribute to the city, and that money is targeted and earmarked specifically for those types of initiatives. Anyone else wish to speak?
Good evening, my name is Bridget. I am going to ask the question about the affordable housing. I opened 2 of your completed projects, which is the Meridian on State Street and the one on Main Street. Inside, as reading, because I did take it to my real estate lawyer to look at it, and inside of it, you have a part where you waived affordable housing with this developer. So can you explain what is that all about?
Initially, the one building that's been open for a couple of years, that agreement was put in place by the prior administration. It was not put in place by this current administration.
But it has the mayor's name on it.
It was not by this current administration that's sitting here. It was by the prior administration. The first few, the way pilots work and the way it's been explained to us and the way our redevelopment attorney got, let me wait. If you have more to say, I don't want to take you through.
No.
And then I'll explain.
I'm listening. No, I'm listening.
Okay,
Go ahead.
but I don't want to chew up your time if you have another question.
No, go
Okay.
ahead.
Is the first few, as we go through this, the whole purpose of a pilot, think of it like kindling to start a fire. No one was investing in this town for 30 years. So the first couple of people that came in and took that chance on Hackensack got the best deal, let's put it that way. It was a true initiative, and there were many components that were not part of it.
But
Once-
waiving
once-
affordable housing
once-
was inside of your verbiage.
Again, this was not this council's decision.
No, it does. It has John's name on it. It has your name on it. Yes, it does. So, yes,
I was
it
not
does.
here during that pilot agreement. So-
But during-
John was in office, but not myself.
Okay,
Okay,
so
John
but it
was,
has the mayor's name on it.
John was-
So the
John-
waiving of affordable
and we're not going to go back and forth.
housing-
If you want to speak, finish your 3
No, okay,
minutes, and then
so
I'll answer
the
you.
question I'm asking to you is, why is there a waiver for affordable housing inside of a finance agreement with developers?
If you want to ask the rest of your
That's
questions,
it. I just want you to answer that question.
and then you will not be allowed to
Nope,
speak again.
I'm not gonna say
Okay.
another word.
All right, as I was starting to explain, when pilots were originally offered in the city, the percentages, the options, the contributions were made to entice development, and there was very few of them that did not have an affordable housing component. Once we had a couple of these under our wings, what we added various things. We changed percentages. We increased the amount of money that they were going to be required to contribute. We were more stringent on the terms. And one of the things that was added in at that point was also that they must, if they do not want to build affordable housing, they must contribute to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund that we have. So the majority of them that you see now have that requirement that they must contribute. We have about $1 million in that trust fund right now, and everyone that comes on board will continue to contribute to that trust fund.
Victor Geddes, Hackensack resident. I have a question. These contracts or, developers, that's a negotiation. You can put that language in there. Why hasn't it been done? Don't say, you saying you want to get outside groups that want to do affordable housing, but you can put the language in there. For the, you want a tax abatement, this is what the stipulations say. That's a negotiation thing. Why hasn't it been done? My first question. And another question, who is the PACO officer for Hackensack?
Who's the what officer? I'm sorry.
PACO, you don't understand what that is?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's the person that oversees the contract that the EEO language are in the contract. Do you know that?
Yeah, it would be the CFO, right?
So the CFO is the same person that oversees that these stipulations are in contracts.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about what kind of contracts are you talking about, sir?
I'm talking about, let's look at the contract with these vehicles or these, for example, the purchasing of this cab and stuff like that for $138,000, 803.
The co-op.
It's the language in the contract stating that you must reach out to minority vendors. Are you following the New Jersey state regulations?
Let me see.
Yeah, all right, I mean, are you finished? I mean, I'll respond when you're
Yeah, let's
done.
finish the 3 minutes.
Go ahead, I just want to ask you,
Yeah.
are you following the
I
regulations?
mean, certainly, when it comes to contracts, part of the mandatory submissions in all of these contracts are, there is mandatory affirmative action language that is in all of our contracts that we certainly require. In fact, I don't believe we can award a contract without it.
You can't.
With respect to a particular contract, there was a mention that it may have been purchased through some sort of cooperative purchasing agreement in which we don't really handle those issues. We're buying them in conjunction with some other municipality or some other governmental entity that may be responsible for ensuring that's in case. But I can tell you in all the contracts that I've reviewed, I don't review all of them, but whenever there's a legal issue, I have always seen the mandatory affirmative action language and the certificates of employee information reports when it comes to professional services that is required to ensure, that there are, minorities involved in the entity that you're contracting with. So I have no reason to believe we're not. If you have some information to the contrary, come see me after the meeting and I'll look at it.
Open some of the contracts.
Yeah, you're welcome to do so. They're public
Are you
records.
doing your due diligence and trying to find minorities? Or are you just putting the ad in the paper?
Well, I mean, again, I can't speak to it. I mean, I let the council, but in terms of, certainly like legal contracts, we have a number of very highly accomplished minority attorneys who are representing the city right now in numerous
I'm not
cases.
talking about attorneys, I'm talking about
All right, thank you,
purchase.
Mr. Geddes, but your time is up. Thank you very much.
I'll be back to ask the same question.
We'll be here afterwards. If you'd like to come speak to us, we'd be happy to speak to you.
Answer my question.
Good evening, council. My name is Randy Glover. I'm a resident of Hackensack. Before I get to my thing, I do want to ask a question since they've been asking about minority vendors. Are you guys using any SBEs or WMBEs or WOSBs as far as minority vendors? You, counselor, you said that you're using counselors, but are you, as contractors with the developers, are any minorities being used? Also, are there any hub zones here that the city is using, and any enterprise zones? Because that would mean you should be reaching out for those particular designations. Does anybody know that?
Why don't you finish your questions, Mr. Glover? We don't want to use your time.
That's just one of the questions.
Why don't you ask you 3 minutes, and then we don't want to cut you off.
No, I'll come back next week for the other stuff, but I'm just curious because they're all bringing this up, and it is curious about, you know, there should be some set-asides, and if you guys are following the rules. I'm sure that people are gonna, at this point, start looking into it. There's $1 billion worth of development going on. We don't see any black developers, any black subcontractors, any black workers, any black anything, okay? And I know all you guys up here, I've worked with all of you, and I think you're fair, sometimes, not all the time. Because if that was the case, I wouldn't be standing here feeling that the city stole my intellectual property, which was the Main Street Live concert series. So to talk about intellectual property and to talk about theft, and yes, I'm saying I feel that you guys have done that, and it's kind of daunting to for the secretary where I'm at to field calls from people saying, "Oh, are you doing that production?" I'm like, "No," or people in the Senate asking me, "Am I doing something here?" Or people in Congress asking me, "Am I doing something here?" And people, the freeholders, asking me the same question. Or business leaders who should know that I'm not doing it now, but they're still asking. So it's kind of interesting to get to be fielding those questions, you know, or be out at an event and with a newspaper reporter, and then somebody on the board says, "Oh, do you know Mr. Glover? He does these events." And he's not apprised, or that person's not apprised of what's going on. So, you know, sometimes the cover-up is really what gets you. So what I was going to speak about this evening, I'll wait till next week. But thank you for your time.
All right, I'll try and answer your question as best I can. As far as contractors that are hired by the city, I'll kind of defer that to Steve to answer later, but I mean, I believe we have a fair and open process that's followed for all of the folks that we employ, whether we employ them as contract folks or whether we employ them as direct employees to the city. As far as developers go, which is more of an area that I'm more actively involved in, the city is not purchasing properties and then developing them so that we would have control over who is developing them. That's not what's happening here. What's happening here is private industry comes in and purchases a piece of property and comes to the city with their plans and their intent to build. So we don't get to choose who buys those properties. That who buys those properties is open to any individual that chooses to do that. And we are happy to discuss with anyone who comes in. We're very open, and we've put out a sign and a statement saying Hackensack is open for business. We want to bring life back into our town. And we have no control over the color of the skin of folks that come in and purchase those properties and want to develop them. We welcome everyone.
I'm glad to hear that because I
Thank
do
you.
have some developers and contractors. So
Be happy to meet them. Be happy to do that.
I'll be happy to bring them.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Rich Serbo, 46 Spring Valley Ave, Hackensack. You know, I just wanted to start by saying, I think it was JFK that said only the educated are free. And although I think he snatched that from the ancient Greeks, but only the educated are free. And I was glad when you started the evening with the school choice proclamation, but I think it really needs to be explained a little more. What does it mean? What can a student do? What are families entitled to? What schools can they go to? I mean, please explain it more. You can't just say, oh, there's a school choice. What is it? It's been talked about, I know it has, but please, especially here in Hackensack with the different schools and neighborhoods, would you please explain it when you get a chance, okay? That's one thing, okay? Number two is, I'm glad that someone brought up the tax breaks. One of the gentlemen that was speaking here before me brought up tax breaks to developers and homeowners. Like I said, are still carrying the burden of the cost of everything. Plus, if you're renting, you're paying your taxes every month. Okay, we pay every 3 months, 4 times a year, we clean out our checking account to pay the city. So you have nothing other than tax revenue coming in to function in this city. So you don't have anything but what residents pay you, renters, homeowners. So isn't it time you listen to what people say? I mean, especially property owners and renters. That's everybody, right there. So please respond a little better to the people that pay your bills. Okay, that's it. Okay, a couple other just mentions here. This one about. I'm a tennis player, okay, and I think I spoke with Stephanie once about it. I heard nothing after that, but now I see that there's a bid for a company in Bridgewater. Now, I don't even know where Bridgewater is, but there's a bid for a project for the Carver Park tennis courts. Now, what about the rest of them? Okay, Carver Park, yeah, it's a special place. It's right around the corner. It's right in the middle of town. But there are many other tennis courts, and is there anything happening with that? Are there any bids out for tennis courts around the city? Stephanie, you mentioned it. Please, I wish you would elaborate on what's going on with that, okay? Thank you very much.
All right, Rich, very quickly to talk about a couple of your points. As far as school choice, I think that it was elaborated well in the proclamation. But I mean, basically what we're saying is that there are many choices to families as to where they or how they want to educate their children. And it can start with the very simplest choice. Some folks are very happy and willing to school their children at home, and that's an option. Right within Hackensack, we have a wonderful school system, a variety of elementary schools, and you mentioned who chooses who goes to those schools. I mean, pretty much it's geographic. There's lines that are drawn, and this is done by the Board of Education, and they look at proximity. So folks, live the closest to certain elementary schools, and that's how those decisions are made as to which of those schools you go to. We also have a charter school right here in Hackensack. That is another option for folks if they choose to ask to have their children go to a charter school. And there are private schools as well. And there's county schools, as Bergen Academies is in Hackensack. There's Bergen Technical School in Teterboro. So there's many, many options for residents to choose. And in this particular proclamation and honoring this particular week is saying how fortunate we are to have those choices. And, from family to family, we can make those decisions as to what we see is best fit for our children. As far as the tennis courts, I'll let you speak if you'd like, Stephanie, but I mean, we are going through all of our parks and examining them, and we're making change from one to another. I believe the Carver Park tennis courts, did we have grant money for that?
Yes.
So, that was something that we applied for grant money for and received grant money for. Why it was awarded to a Bridgewater company, we have a fair and open bidding process. So, pretty much we're looking at who's coming in with meeting the request for specifications. So I can do the job, I can meet those specifications, and I'm coming in at the best price. So, it's a fair and competitive bid so that we do respect our taxpayers and we award those contracts based on the best price for a quality product.
And I believe the grant we were talking about was a USTA grant that we got wind of that we were discussing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Carver Park was already in motion, so we couldn't
Correct.
use the USTA grant funds for that. It would have held it up, and we already had the allocated funds for that. So we're using, I believe our grant writer applied to the USTA for other courts to look at and use those funds if we get them to improve those areas.
And we will continue to do so. Thanks, Deb. All right, seeing no one, can I have a motion to close to the public?
Off.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Council comments? Steph, do you have them?
Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to follow up a little bit on the school choice, just to elaborate on that a little bit. I think it's important to realize, there's so many different children, different ways that they learn, and different, settings that are appropriate for all our kids, and sometimes some need supports in other areas. But it's an important conversation to have, as a mother and as a teacher. You hate to say it, but maybe college isn't for everybody. I mean, there's plenty of trade schools out there. There's different, trades that children can use. And sometimes there's this pressure on these kids that, you have to go to a 4-year college. You have to go, to get a master's degree. So the option of going to different trade schools, and maybe, we have students in our school that go half a day academics and half a day to learn hair cutting. They want to be barbers, or they want to be hairstylists, or they want to learn a trade. And nowadays sometimes people with that trade are making more money, double the amount of money that people that have master's degrees and doctoral degrees. So that's an important part of school choice too, that there's some type of school for everybody, and they shouldn't be, always pushed to feel like they have to, go to a 4-year college and incur that kind of debt. So I think that's part of that school choice. And we're fortunate here in Hackensack to have, we have Eastwick, we have Hohokus schools, we have the academies, we have, Parisian, we have, Capri, all these different options for students right here in our own backyard. So there is something for everybody, and kids should never feel that pressure that they can't, do what they have to do or live up to other people's expectations. This Saturday, we have our second home match, wrestling home match, Hackensack Junior Wrestling. And we had our first one 2 weeks ago, and it was amazing. It was the first time we've had a wrestling match outside of the downstairs gym in the high school. And we had 4 different towns visiting us. And when I tell you, the parents from the other towns, our parents, the coaches from the other towns, the rec director from different towns came up to us and said, "What an amazing facility." You could just tell that our wrestlers were just so proud to have, a nice new facility. You could actually walk around. Usually in the lower gym of the high school, it's kind of, cramped. Once you find your seat, you sit there and you don't move, and you're afraid to lose it. But it was just, a wonderful experience. You could see the pride on all of the athletes' faces that, it was just such an amazing facility. They had nice bathrooms. They had a nice concession area. So it was a really nice event. So if anyone has, time on Saturday to see our, second, and we only have 2 home meets every year, but second match, come on down to the M&M Center. It was a really good event 2 weeks ago. And that's all I have. Have a good night.
Thanks, Dave.
The mayor had a procedure done earlier in the week, and I just want to ask for a prayer for a speedy recovery. If you don't mind, I want to just take a moment of silence. On Sunday, we lost one of the greatest basketball players that ever played, Kobe Bryant. Also, we lost 2 retired crossing guards who worked for the city for over 30 years. So we can just say a moment of silence for them. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
For the last few weeks, I've been working with PSNG, the city manager, to try to improve the lighting in the city of Hackensack. We got a report from the police department that went to the city manager, like about 85 locations that PSNG has to try to improve with LED service or whatever. So that report should be go to Ryan, and Ryan is going to communicate with PSNG, and we're going to start doing to improve the lighting in the city. Gary mentioned about the snow melter, and that's something that we are looking to try to buy that unit, and that way we don't have the accumulation of the snow through the city, and we can melt it and put it right into the drain. What else we got? And we are working now to try to improve the conditions of the city around the corners, because sometimes people park too close to the corners and block the view of the driver. So we're gonna start working to mark with the yellow paint the corner, and that way the people maintain the right distance, and that way they don't block the view of the people when they make a right or left. And the other thing is keep in your prayer my friend Emil, that is already more than a month in the hospital, and Kathy had to jog her time between meetings, the hospital, her mother. So thank you, Kathy, for everything you are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. Yes, please keep my husband in your prayers. He's been in the hospital since January 1st. We appreciate that. Thanks, Leo. And Leo's been wonderful help, as this whole council has been in supporting me, and I really appreciate that. And that's what the city is about. We help each other, and when people are suffering or going through bad times, we're all here for each other, and I think that's what really makes the city great. But a couple of things on the agenda tonight. I do like to talk about things and just make sure people are aware of them, as things, words kind of get blurred sometimes when you read it in an agenda, and they are very important. Some of the things we talked about that we passed tonight are, moving forward with doing more of the streetscape work on Main Street, which includes 2 more new adaptive traffic signals that we're looking at, potentially where they would be and how all this would come into play. Again, we're seeing a lot of progress on our downtown, and I think it's something we should all be proud of and feel good about. This is our city. And it's something Steph mentioned about how proud she was and the kids were to walk in that M&M building and see what a great place they had to show off in Hackensack. And I think those are the really good changes that we're seeing in the city. And, some of the things that I'm hearing tonight, it's very disturbing to me. We should be proud, and we should be all moving together on this. And that's what's most important. We don't want to be dividing ourselves. We want to be working together to make this city the very, very best that it can be. Other things going on Main Street, we're doing a redevelopment investigation. They talked about the 400 block, just to put that in perspective. If you're looking at the east side of Main Street, up towards Sears, so the corner on the south side, there was a gas station there on that corner, not including that, but there was a number of, older apartments there. And we have someone that is working and purchasing those and is looking to do some redevelopment in that area, so that's what that was about tonight. That was an investigation of that particular area. We also have some monies that are being spent tonight to continue to look at helping with Fashini Park. Baseball will be here soon. I know Dave, Steph, Leo, all our sports fans, are big on that. And it's a very important piece of Hackensack and its culture and its years, and providing not only for our youth, but for everyone that enjoys that park. So there's also some expenses there. I did speak earlier about the FAA. This is great news for us. We've been working hard as a city, and all the residents have been supporting this effort. And this was, I know I'm out there beating the drum all the time, but this was no one-woman task. This was a city task. This was getting everybody together to come and say, we've had enough in Hackensack, and we need to have a fix for this. And we got people to listen. And I'm so proud of everyone that helped in that initiative and got us where we are, because that is who we are, and we should all be proud. Thanks for coming, and I hope everyone has a good evening, and we'll see you again next time. Can I have a motion to close? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none?